I want to welcome you to this video section. My name is Dzorgbo. I am your course instructor. I am currently the head of department of Sociology department. I trust that you have been reading the course material online, and I hope you have been enjoying it. And by now you have been developing what we sociologists call the sociological imagination, or what sometimes others refer to as sociological mindfulness about society. Now, the purpose of this video is to, first of all, let you know your course instructor, and more importantly, to walk you through the online materials that you have so that you get a broader perspective of what's going on. I want to assure you that we value you and then the distant mode that you are having your education. And we are doing our best to make you also come at par with other students in the Department of Sociology so that you don't feel like you are suffering or you are not getting the best and all that. So the Sakai learning platform has been introduced so that you get your course materials online, and then also we get the chance to introduce ourselves to you, and in the future have more interactive discussion. Well, our aim is to train you as sociology students, and so the question is, what is sociology? But first, before I answer that question, let me say that sociology is one of the most exciting social science disciplines in the modern society. And those who know a little bit of it before coming always want to subscribe to sociology as a course of study. I'm sure some of you were just given the course. Others maybe asked for it, but I'm sure whatever be your situation, you have not regretted taking on sociology. Now, the question is, what is sociology? Now, sociology studies society and individuals in it. And the more specific areas we focus on is our scientific approach to understanding the nature, organization, and how societies function. We examine human behavior, social interactions, social relationships, and the institutions that emerge and their consequences for our lives. Sociologists are interested in what holds society together, what causes change. We use various concepts, theories, research methods to provide a distinctive perspective on society that we call sociological. And we are also interested in social problems. So sociology is a very broad discipline, and that is captured by the numerous sub-disciplines that we have. For example, sociology of the family, ethnicity, culture, cultural diversity, crime and social control, work, industry and organizations, health and illness, politics, urbanization, law, religion, gender issues, population and demography, societal development, mass media, communication, science and technology, globalization, tourism, just to name a few. So you can see that we have a very broad field, and actually we are the broadest when it comes to social science disciplines. We incorporate many aspects of other social science disciplines like psychology, economics, political science, etc., etc. Now, sociology studies society, which means that it takes a familiar world, a world that you are already familiar with, and it examines it critically, dispassionately, and it provides new insight. In that way, society sometimes debunks our everyday understanding of society. It turns some of the views we hold about society upside down. For example, how can sociologists argue that deviant behavior, some amount of deviant behavior is good for society? Or we can say that religion strives on poverty. or religion is the opium of the masses. Or we say when people commit suicide, actually it is society that pushes them to commit suicide. So we have all kinds of things out there that sociology will challenge you to re-examine. So we offer you a perspective. This is quite distinctive on new things or familiar things that you have to see in new light. Now we, in sociology, when we train students, we equip them with cutting-edge knowledge. They should have develop analytical minds. They should have research skills, and they should also develop themselves personally, intellectually. And so we train students at the undergraduate level, which I believe you are now. And we also move on to the second level that we call master's level, and then finally the PhD level. But the question is, what does sociology offer you? After all, you have been given sociology as a discipline. So I'm sure it's bothering you after sociology. What next? Where do I work? And all that. I would say that sociology offers you two things. The first is the personal intellectual development. It broadens your mind. It enables you to examine society in new light. In other words, it offers you an understanding of your society, its culture, its institutions. And then it gives you a deeper understanding of how the whole society is structured, how the whole society functions, and how it changes, etc. At the other level is that it must give you employment. After all, we go to school because everybody wants a job to sustain himself or herself. Now, sociology students are given a wide range of career prospects. They have a wide range of career prospects in teaching, in research institutions, industrial organizations, the civil society, civil service, the public sector, the banks, non-governmental organizations, international development agencies, and other areas where human services must be delivered. So I think you agree that sociology gives you opportunity to work in many areas. Now let me come to the development of sociology. From your module or the materials online, you get to know that sociology developed in the 18th and the 19th century Europe. And that was the period. Before then, we can say Europeans were more or less like Africans, traditional. They didn't have industry. Most people were farmers and all that. So life was lived in communities and all that. But something triggered a change in their society. And you know, I'm sure you have read the factors that led to those changes. So there was a dramatic break from the traditional society to the modern society. And this period, which is the Watershed Period, is what we say is the 18th and the 19th century. So Europeans, all of a sudden, began to move into new societies that are industrial, becoming complex, becoming modern, and all that. Such that we see people or social commentators or philosophers who were, the change excited their minds. And so they put together their thoughts about the change and also where society was heading to, what were the characteristics, features that were emerging, what were the consequences of these changes for individuals, for groups, and all that. So it's in this context that we say there was a great transformation in Europe. Okay. In a way, in Africa or in Ghana in particular, we see our society also gradually changing from traditional to the modern. But ours is very gradual. That's why we say we are a developing country. But Europeans had a great jump. And the period they jumped was the 18th and the 19th century. So they move on to modern world. Now, the change, actually, as I said already, excited many minds. So those who witnessed the change began to put forward their ideas about what was happening. So there were many people, but we focus on a few who we think were the core figures that developed what we call sociology, the scientific study of society. So you're reading, you came across Auguste Comte, Herbert Spencer, Karl Marx, Durkheim, and Max Weber. Now, I'm sure in every discipline that you go to, whether it's economics that you studied in secondary school, geography, government, religion, and others, you agree that there are some major figures who actually develop the sciences that you study. So is the case with sociology. So those people who normally develop the subjects have certain critical thinkings, ideas, concepts, theories that we always go back to when we want to study disciplines. And so in the case of sociology, we have our founding fathers that we refer to. So those figures I mentioned are considered as our great founding fathers. And let me say that they are not the only people who reflected on society. There were others, but these are the key guys that we need to study when we move on to sociology. Now, they all have their ideas about what was happening, the consequences, and others. So you remember Auguste Comte, for example, will talk about positivism. That is the spirit of science, that social scientists should study society scientifically. And scientifically, it means we should also adopt the methods that the natural sciences like biology, physics, chemistry were adopting to study their subject matter. So this idea of positivism is like those methods could also be followed by sociologists in studying their subject matter, which is human society, human interaction, and others. Now, what unites these founding fathers is the spirit of evolutionism. And that is, they all were of the view that societies were evolving from one stage to the other. But then, how they describe, how they characterize these changes is what is different. So, Comte, for example, who we credit to be the founder of sociology because he was the one that coined the term, believed that societies move from they move in linear directions. Societies and the thoughts of men, the minds of men. There was one time society was at the theological stage, that is where science was absent. It was mainly religion, superstitious beliefs, and all that. I think you remember the idea that online that Ghanaian societies may actually be at the theological stage because of the predominance of religion and all that. But Comte's view was that this is how societies have been earlier. And the societies moved to a metaphysical stage where explanations of world events and all that are given to abstract forces. Then later, societies move into the modern world. And the modern world is characterized by the spirit of positivism, that science rules the world. So the law of three stages is a law of evolution that can't believe that all societies will pass through. Now, when we come to Herbert Spencer, he also have a different characterization of the change. He was thinking that because we have industrialism, capitalism, and all that characterizing the modern world, it's like competition is the key in society. And so those who are not strong, those who cannot compete, resources are scarce and others, will actually the weak ones in a competitive society. So he came out with the idea that the spirit of survival of the fittest, that is, you have to survive, otherwise it's competition, you have to survive, otherwise you wither away. And he also proposed the idea that society could be likened to a living organism, that society has structures, society has parts and all that, and the parts are the institutions that all of us are in, we are playing our roles. So society looks like a living organism. Actually, this idea of living organism can come from the idea that you take the human body. The human body is a biological organism. What makes the organism to survive? The organism has parts, the legs, the arms, and all that. When all these things are coordinated, the individual is able to survive. So society is also able to endure. So instead of saying society is a biological organism, we rather move on to say that society is a social organism because it's a society. Now, with Durkheim was interested in what really determines human behavior. And for Durkheim, it's society that determines our behavior. The founding father, Durkheim, also was interested in what holds society together, but more particularly what actually determines our behavior. And he used the term social facts to explain how society actually determines our behavior. The idea is that society determines, set the moral principles for all of us to abide by. So in a way, it's like we are not really free. We have been socialized to do societal expectations. So whatever we do, it's like society pushing us and all that. Then we come to Karl Marx. I hope you remember Karl Marx for class conflict. So Karl Marx was interested in two types of groups of society, those who have and those who do not have. In the capitalist society, Marx's view is that those who have end up exploiting those who do not have. So after exploiting the other class, we tend to subscribe to religion that says that, oh, you know, don't worry about your poverty here. When you die, you inherit heaven. So he considers religion as the opium of the masses. And then Weber talks about Westerhand, that we should study people's intentions behind their actions. Now, the sociological perspectives you learn, there are many of them, but we studied only 3 of them. Structural functionalism, that is also referred to as just functionalism, and conflict theory, and then symbolic interactionism. Basically, the structural functionalists are only interested in actually explaining what holds society together, what makes for order in society, whereas conflict theory, actually championed by Karl Marx, is talking about society has conflict among groups and others. Then symbolic interactionists are interested in actually what happens in everyday life when you are interacting with your colleagues in school, what goes on, what meanings do you get out of that interaction that reshape your subsequent actions. And so Goffman, who is a later day saint of symbolic interaction, even says that when we are outside and we are interacting with our people, or with our friends, families and all that, we put up a face, we put up a favorable impression so that people actually see that we are good guys and all that. So he came out with that, the concept of front stage, backstage, impression management and all that. Now, beyond this, we dance culture and its significance. And I know culture, you've done that in the social studies, in the senior high school and others, because I've been reading your books and I know. Then, of course, we did society, social interaction. We have concepts to explain how societies function, how so human interactions go on. So concepts like roles, statuses, achieve status, master status, and all that. Now, socialization, I'm sure you read that. That should be very easy because in the senior high school, you've done socialization already. So how do we become human? We are all born as just animals. We have to be shaped by our environment, by the agents, like our family, parents, schools, churches, and others, so that on the whole, we become conformist and all that. Now, the last topic online is deviance and control. I think you all agree that we expect people to conform, to create peace, order in society, but it's not always the time that everybody would like to conform. Some few people actually try to deviate from the norm. But let me say that sociologists, we don't see deviance and criminality as always bad. I'm sure this is where I was saying that we sometimes debunk reality. The views you are holding already before coming to sociology that, oh, criminals are bad, deviants are bad, we have to control them. But can you imagine a society where everybody is behaving according to the Bible or whatever? It will be a very, very boring society. Sometimes we need excitement. We need to challenge existing conditions. When people challenge existing conditions and they deviate, sometimes they are indicating that some part of society is not well structured. So, for example, if we are having too many criminals in society, it should alert us that maybe the nature of our society is not good. We need to do something about it. So we see that some amount of deviant behavior is even positive for society, so that society can readdress its own nature and do things better. But obviously, you all agree that deviant behavior, when it's carried on to the extreme, it undermines the peace and all that. So we need to control. So the concept of social control comes in. And then we have informal social control. Even the socialization process is informal control system. In traditional societies, we control people by appealing to the gods, scaring them that the ancestors will punish them when they do something bad. But in a modern society, those informal social control systems cannot work effectively. So we have the formal control systems, which we refer to as the criminal justice system, which comprise the police, the judiciary, and then the prison system. So we punish people for many reasons, either to correct them, to rehabilitate them, or even to punish them for what they've done badly. So we have many reasons for punishing and all that. I think I've walked through the course materials, and I hope you have enjoyed it and you have gained something for your own situation. Thank you so much for being part of this video.